Well, hello there! Welcome once more to Quaters Kitchen. And if this is your first time stopping by, I'd like to say a very warm welcome to you. Yes, it's another meal prep day, and I'll be so honored and happy to have you join me in the kitchen to do this. This is going to be a lot of cooking, and this video is a little lengthy because I'm taking you through certain recipes that I don't have them here already. So bear with me if you may. We'll be making some okra stew, some fish stew, that is going to be fish and vegetable stew actually. I will also be grilling some red snapper. We'll be making some rice and peas with jerk chicken and sauteing some veggies. We'll also be making melon seed soup, which we call in Ghana very quite so delicious, and also some light soup. So I'll be starting off by making my jerk seasoning and marinate my chicken before I leave to go pick my daughter from school. And here are the ingredients you need. You need some thyme, some scallions, half of an onion, and some ginger as well. So I'm going to go ahead and blend all these ingredients, and I'll be adding other ingredients to this to make my actual jerk seasoning, and I'll be taking you through them. So I've tried several times to make my own jerk marinade from scratch, and it has never been so perfect. But I've come to find out if I blend these ingredients that I just showed you and I'm doing right now and add it to my Walkerswood marinade, the one in the bottle I'll be showing you up close very soon, and add just a few other spices to it, it turns out amazing. So I'm done blending this, and now my chicken has already been washed, pat dry and all, and so I've just added some salt. And you always have to bear in mind how much salt you use, because the Walkerswood marinade, if you happen to use it, it's like a perfect marinade on its own. It's salted and everything already, so you have to be mindful of how much salt you add. I also added some allspice, and now I'm just grinding some peppercorns in here. Ideally, I should have used pimento, but I didn't have some at home, and when I went out to pick my daughter, I did get some, but I just didn't go ahead and add some. So that is my Walkerswood marinade right here. That is the best jerk marinade you could ever find. I love this marinade. So I shook the bottle. You need to shake it to make sure you're getting the best of everything on your meat. And what I put on there is roughly about 1/3 of a cup. And now I'm just going to apply some of my freshly made marinade as well. And now you just rub this into your chicken. You want the chicken to be able to pick up all these great flavors. So just rub it into it. Rub it so that every part of your meat is covered with this good marinade. And so as you can see, I'm lifting the skins to apply some of it underneath, so your meat ends up flavorful and juicy, tasty to the bone, delicious. So I'm going to be picking up my daughter, like I said, so I'm rushing to do this marinated to make sure that the meat gets a good amount of time, at least 4 hours to marinate before I bake it. And in total, it did get about 6 hours from the time I left this to when I finally grilled it, and so it was so delicious. So now I'm just going to cover it and let it sit in the fridge, and then I'll quickly go get this little girl, and then we'll come back and do our work. So we came back from picking it up. We were gone for a long time. I did some grocery shopping and ran a few other errands, and we got back just in time before it got dark. And I intend to make my jerk using charcoal instead of baking in the oven or using my gas grill. And so let's get going with that. I have my charcoal here, and I got it a little bit wet, so it took me forever to get it to light up, but it finally did. And so here we are. And yes, finally this fire has decided to help me out. And so very soon we're going to be grilling our meat. I know you probably think she's crazy. She has a gas grill sitting there. Yes, a 6-burner gas grill sitting there. She has an oven, and she's going to all this trouble to do this. Yes, this fire took like 30 minutes for me to get to where I am now, but I really wanted to enjoy that smokiness, you know, the real jerk chicken flavors, and I didn't want to compromise. So anyway, I have put my grate on here now, and it is hot enough for me to put my meat on it as well. And that is what we are doing. This fire pit I made myself about 2 years ago. No, a year ago, actually, a little over a year ago. I made this fire pit, and I have a video of how I did it myself. It's a whole DIY project that I made all by myself, and I'm so proud of it. It has not only been great to make fires and grill on, but it has also added something to my backyard, my own landscaping, and I love it. I hope you're able to try it. If you have enough space in your backyard, it is something that hopefully you can try to do. So we have all my meat here, and as you saw, I didn't let any of that good marinade go to waste. I applied them all over, and now it's been about maybe 4 or 5 minutes. So I'm coming here to check on my meat for the very first time to turn it. So I'm just going back and forth between here and the grill, helping with homework because we got back late, a little bit late, and it's getting dark. And the chicken is what I want to do first, since I'm trying to do it outside to get enough light for you to see what I'm doing and for me to see what I'm doing. So anyway, over here I have some marinade. That is the Walkerswood jerk marinade plus the one that I made myself, mixed together with some olive oil, and I am just going to be applying that to my meat to make sure it doesn't dry out. And I want the seasoning to be very intense on this. And look at all that smoke. Yes, that is what is going to bring that flavor. But trust me, when you do it in the oven, it is not bad at all. It is still very delicious. I was just trying to be a little bit extra, I think. I really wanted to do this. I haven't used this grill, the fire pit, a lot this season, and I felt like I needed to use it. So, but in the oven, it is just as delicious. So look at this. It is getting there. It is almost done. And as you know, grilling over charcoal can be very, very difficult to do. You can't really regulate the heat, so you have to constantly be turning so that you don't burn your meat. This smells amazing, amazing, and I know I'm killing the neighbors with the aromas, but what can a girl do? What can a girl do? Huh? Tell me. I have to eat. Is it my fault? Is it my fault that I like good flavors? Absolutely not. Just look at that. I know you can imagine how good that tastes. I hope you're able to try this. You will love it. So anyway, whilst this was cooking, I managed to go in the kitchen and wash and blend my tomatoes. And now it is cooking. I am just going to get it to cook down. And so eventually this jerk was ready. I brought it in here. Just look at this. Just look at this. I know it got so dark outside I couldn't see well. I burnt most of the skin, but trust me, the meat itself is so juicy and moist. Moist. Yeah, I killed Ivana. She can have her chicken skin, but she really enjoyed the meat itself. Did you see that? How beautiful it did cook? Just look at that. So juicy. The spices, the flavors, everything is just perfect. Perfect. So I'm going to wrap this and set it aside and then proceed to cook all the other meals. And then afterwards, as usual, we'll package everything. Yeah, I hope you try this recipe. And if you can find the Walkerswood brand, amazing. So you see this tomato has cooked down. It has been about half hour. It is cooking down beautifully. And so I'm cutting down my cooking time whilst I was doing other things, so I didn't have to stand and cook this too forever. This is done and it is going to help me work faster at this point. And I have a recipe on how I made a big batch of tomatoes for this purpose, and I will link it for you if you haven't seen it yet. So I'm getting my garlic, onion, and ginger ready as usual to start making my marinades for the rest of my meat and to make my stews. And I've come to find out, it's easier to peel onions under running water. Like the skins just lifts right off as opposed to you doing it when it is so dry. So I like to do this under running water just like I'm doing now, and it helps me to be faster. And now that they are all peeled, I'm just giving them another wash to make sure they are clean before we go ahead and cut and blend them. So if this is your first time watching my meal prep video, what I do is I normally blend my seasonings or marinade together, and then I just divide among the stuff that I'm going to be cooking. So I have in my blender my garlic, and this is the onions, and I remembered I don't have any ginger in there, so I found this in the freezer, and just too hard for me to cut it up when it's frozen, so I put the whole thing in here, and it did blend just as well. And now that I have been able to blend some of the onions and reduce the space, the volume that it occupied, I can now add in the rest of my onions to make sure everything is blended at a go. And now I'm just going to go ahead and get ready to clean my meats. Gloved hands if you can, and I'll discard my trash first, and then we'll come back and do that. So we're going to start off by cleaning our meats, and the first one is going to be oxtails. So this I just got today when I went to, after I picked my daughter up, we went to the store, the grocery store, Asian supermarket, and I got a few other things. So I got this oxtail, some okra, and some, I think, beef necks, the neck bones, and that is what I'm going to be making the soup with, and the flavor will be very, very intense, very good. So anyway, I have washed, and I'm washing again my oxtails, and then I'm going to transfer them into my saucepan. Today I'm just going to go the slow way and not pressure cook them first. So here are the neck bones, the beef neck bones. I don't know if you can really read from here, but the flavor that this brought to the soup, amazing. Like very, very delicious soup I made out of that. And so I'm going to give it another wash as well. And all the meats I'm going to cook together, and then I will split. So I'm using these to make the light soup and the okra stew, but I'm going to cook everything together, and once it's done cooking, I will just go ahead and split it. So I also got some smoked turkey wings, and these are what I'm washing now, and I'm going to add that to the oxtail and the beef bones. It's not just bones, actually those bones have a lot of meat on them. And now I'm going to go ahead and clean the fish as well. And I'm going to be grilling them more like broiling. I don't want to do it over the grill. I think I'm going to use Nanabe's recipe. Normally what I do is I would pan sear my red snapper and then quickly bake it or like broil it. But I saw her recipe and I tried it the previous week. If you watch my Insta stories, you saw that, and it turned out so good. So I'm just going to make it again this week. Yes, so I'm just cleaning the fish, taking the scales off, removing the mouth, however way you want to clean your fish, you do it that way. And then I'll wash it and get it ready to be marinated. So I've washed my red snapper now, but I'm also going to give it another wash using a lemon. So I cut a lemon into two, and I'm just applying it, using it to wash it, squeeze the juice, and then rubbing the fish all over and inside it with the lemon halves to make sure that it is not fishy. You don't want a fishy fish. Yeah. If it makes any sense at all, fishy fish. Anyway, so it's well washed now. I think I've got some fishiness of it, and now I put it on a rack just so it can dry off, and then I'll get it ready later for grilling. So every time I bake or fry fish, I like to make these slits on it, just so it allows it to absorb whatever seasoning or marinade I put on my meat or my fish as much as possible. And I think it also adds to the beauty of your fish. So this is done now, and I am going to go ahead and wash my chopping board and all the things that I use to clean up my meat, clean my surface, and then we'll proceed with the cooking. And always, it is also ideal to sanitize your sponge and all your surfaces. So actually, this is an old sponge. I always save my sponges when they are a little old, you know, to clean my sink and my stovetop and stuff like that. And today, this one, I think it's ready to go in the trash, and that is what I did. And then I'll just replace it. So I have my meat all lined up here, waiting for some TLC, and I start off by adding some salt to it. So in that gold or chrome saucepan actually is chicken, and that is what we are making the rere quine right here, rere quine with. And rere is a melon. I'll show you later. And the soup is similar to groundnut soup, but it tastes way better, and I think it's healthier too. So I'm going to start cooking that chicken now. So I'm just letting it steam, like how we'll say it in Ghana. It's just for it to cook with very little water to absorb all the aromas and the flavors of all the marinades I've put on it. And then afterwards, I'll add all the other ingredients. So I'm in the pantry now looking for my rare. These are melon seeds, and that is what I'll be making the soup with. And I need to bring them out so I can toast them. So I came back, my chicken needs a little bit water at this point. It has cooked with just that little amount of moisture, and now I've added some more water just so it cooks all the way through. And here is the rare. These are melon seeds, like I told you, dried. And how we make soup with them is we toast them and blend it, and then, you know, strain, and then the juice or the milk that comes out of it is what we use to make the soup. But always when they come to you, they come with a lot of foreign materials, chaff, stones, so many things that you just have to look through, you know, fish through, and then take them out. before you go ahead and do the toasting, and that is what I'm doing right now. And that is what I hate about making rare soup. It's just a lengthy process, but the end result, it's amazing. So the rare has sat around in my pantry for quite a while, and it has this powdery stuff all around it, and that's why I'm trying to blow them off before I go ahead to toast it. And I'm toasting it on my stovetop in a frying pan. I have a recipe for this soup here already, like one of my first few videos when I came on YouTube, and I hope you check that out. It is more detailed for you. And in there, I showed you how you could toast this over the stove top or in the oven. Normally, I'll do it in the oven. I know a lot of people still ask me a lot of questions about rare, so I'm going through it with you one more time over here, just so you know. And when you're toasting it, you know it is done when it starts popping, like how popcorn would do. So it will start getting fragrant, you will smell it, and then of course the color changes and it will be popping a lot, and that is what you'll be seeing shortly. Yes, so when you see it popping like this, or you hear it more, like I should say, then you know it is getting there, it's getting done. You don't want to see the sides around here, it's darkening. So I'm trying to rotate this pan because now it's beginning to smell beautifully, beautiful. And done. Our rubber is beautifully toasted. It's done, ready to bring us some good, delicious soup. And you don't want to leave it in the pan because the residual heat is going to burn your seeds. So I transfer it onto a platter, and now I am just going to go ahead and focus on other things. So I'm checking on the meat here now. It's smelling amazing. It is looking good. Just look at that. Just look at that. Imagine how tasty the light soup is going to be, and the okra stew as well. Look at all that juice. Yeah, so I'm just stirring to make sure everything gets cooked the way it should be, because it's like a whole pot of meat. And so you want to try to stir so it gets cooked evenly. And of course, with all those intense aromas coming through in the kitchen, I opened the window, I cracked the window open around the breakfast area, and now I'm just turning on candles, trying to make sure I neutralize some of the odors. Whatever you can do, do it. Lighter goes back. And now I'm just gonna go ahead and blend my rare. And I realized, why don't I use a funnel? And I have this funnel that I use to bottle my shito, and it was the perfect tool to help me transfer everything into my blender. I added just a little bit of water to help me blend, and here we go. Yes, rare is just like granite soup, I told you. And when you make it, you want to make sure you use a fine strainer to strain it. And that is exactly what I'm doing right now. So I thought it was all blended through, but as you can see, I have some whole nuts in here that didn't blend all the way. But what I always do anyway is I reblend after I do the first squeeze, because I always, even back home, that's what my mom does anyway. You just don't want to waste your money and your seeds. When you blend it, you still get a good amount of juice or milk from it to add to your soup. So I'm just going to go ahead and put them back in here. the chaff that I got, and I'm going to reblend. So in the actual video, I think I did that on the side so you see how much juice I got back from it. But this time around, I just poured everything in here. But you can see from the residue now how dry it is. It got all the way dry because there's nothing else to give in there. And that is how you know you've got the most out of your seeds. So I'm just going to strain one more time into a pot. And as always, you want to leave the bottom, strain and leave just a little bit at the bottom and not just go empty everything in there, because if there is any sand or anything, it tends to stay in the bottom. And I am going to cook my juice or the milk on the side, because in making rare, you don't want to pour the freshly made juice onto your meat if you added salt. Once you have salt, you have to boil it on the side for it to boil before you add, otherwise it clumps up. Just watch my full video if you can and you'll understand a lot better. So after it boiled, I came back and poured it onto my meat, and now you can cook your soup peacefully without making a hot mess and wasting your precious ingredients. And you just don't want to waste your time and money. I'm just going to let my rare soup cook, and whilst it does that, I move over to this side, and now it's time for me to take out some of the meat. It's cooked enough that I can make my okra stew with it. And so I'm taking some from here, and I'll take some of the liquid as well, and then the rest in the saucepan, I'm just going to go ahead and use that to make the light soup. Yeah, when you meal prep, like I always say, you have to do it smart. Whatever saves you time and energy, do it. At the end of the day, it's gonna taste just as delicious anyway. So I've added some peppers to the rest of my garlic, ginger, onion, and I'm going to blend that. And that is what I'll be using to make my tomato stew and the okra stew. And these tomatoes, I didn't mention them, but I'm boiling them to go in the two soups. I'll blend them together and they go in the soup. So I poured out this that I'm going to be using to make the other stews, and now I have my tomatoes in the blender to make the soup. And so I am just dividing it among the meat, just a little bit for the red soup, and I strained it. And I have to tell you, I put back the residue in the light soup. I wasn't going to waste it, but you want your red soup to be smooth and silky, so you want everything to be strained. Yeah, but I wasn't going to waste it, so it went into the other soup. And I'm just adding about a tablespoon of tomato paste in here, just to bring some richness and color, vibrance to this soup. And that is it. Now I'm just going to let it cook all the way down and just let the meat be tender and everything, and it's going to be done. So we're going to go ahead and cook our rice and peas. So I came here looking for my peas and some coconut oil, and of course some rice. And now I'm just washing my rice. You wash it whichever way. People have been asking me, do you have to wash your rice? It really is optional. People have different opinions about rice. Sometimes I don't wash it. I really started washing it a lot more when I was pregnant. I just couldn't smell all that jasmine, the fragrance. So I started washing my rice. Anyway, so I have my rice in there. I have one can of peas. Those are pigeon peas, and I have one can of coconut milk, some thyme, garlic, scallion, one scallion cut up. I have one fresh pepper for flavor and some pimento peppers, and I'm going to list the ingredients of all this for you, since I've never done this on the channel, and this is just my version of rice and peas, like Jamaican rice and peas, and that is what we are having the jerk chicken with. And here I add in some salt, and then I added just a little bit of water, washed out my milk can, and added a little bit of water. And if you don't want your rice to be soft, you don't need to add that extra water. I think my salt is good now, and so I'm just going to go ahead and cover this and let it cook. And our soup is almost done. It's doing beautifully. It smells amazing. It tastes so good. Yes. I've been going in and fishing for meat, tasting. You know how we do it, ladies. By the time I was done, I don't know how many pieces I had enjoyed. This was good. Like so good. The aroma, the flavor, the spice, everything perfect. So the soup is done. I've taken it off the stove so I can make room to cook the next thing that needs to be done. And so I move the rice to the back now, and I'm going to start making the okra stew. But first, let's take a tasting break. One of many, right? So good. I couldn't help it. Anyway, I've added my onions. I have my chopped onions in here. I've added it to my hot palm oil. And whilst that cooks, I'm just checking on my rice. So I'm just going to stir it like all rice recipes, especially with the beans, you want to stir it to make sure that it is well mixed up in your rice. And now I'm just adding some of my blended onion, garlic, ginger. Remember the onion blend that I added the peppers to? And that is what I'm using to make my stew. So that has cooked for about 5 minutes, and now I added just about maybe a third cup of my cooked tomatoes. So this is a concentrate, so that's all I need to make my okra stew. And I let that cook for a further 5 minutes, and I've added in my meats now. It didn't need all that cooking time because the tomatoes is already cooked, and so that helped me to make this okra stew in very little time. So the meats are in here now. I tasted it needed a little bit more salt. I've added my salt. I've covered, and I'm just letting it cook through. And just then I remembered I got the stockfish bits when I went to the African market. So I quickly washed some. Ideally, I should have soaked them, but like I said, I didn't remember I had them. So I just quickly washed a few and threw them in there. And these are my okras that I got in the store as well when I went to get my meats. They're so fresh, so beautiful. Just look at them. And so I've washed them, and I'm going to go ahead and start cutting them. So normally when I make okra, I always try to reserve about a quarter to a third of the total amount of okra that I'm using in my stew, and that I blend and add to my stew, and that also helps to bring more sliminess to it. So my rare soup at this point has cooked down. It is thickening, it smells amazing, and it is almost done. And over here, I just added my chopped okra to my stew, then added the ones I blended as well. There we go. Rinsed out my blender and the lid. And now just look as I stare. Look at all the sliminess. This okra was good, like really good. We all enjoyed it. I initially was making it for my kids, but we ended up helping them to finish it. It was so good. We just couldn't help it. So anyway, this is just some spinach that I'm going to be chopping in there for some more texture. And over here, I've started making my stew. So I have my oil here, and I've added my sliced onions in there. And I'm just going to let that cook a little bit. And whilst my onions cook, I'm just going to go ahead and chop my spinach. And that will go into the okra stew. And this I'm using just in the absence of jute leaves, malacca leaves, ayoyo, what we call back home. This just also helps bring some texture, not more of the draw or sliminess, but I just like the texture and the vibrance it brings to the okra stew. And here now I'm just adding some curry powder to my tomato stew. I mean, not tomato stew yet, but it's going to end up being tomato stew. So to my oil and onions, and now I've added my blended onions, garlic, ginger, and peppers. Let it cook for about 5 minutes, and then in went my tomato paste. This is about maybe 4 tablespoons, the most of tomato paste. But I have great recipes for tomato-based stews over here, and I hope you check them out. And whilst that is cooking, I'm just checking on my okra, which at this point has cooked beautifully. The okra is just about soft enough, and this is just about maybe 6 minutes into when I put the okra in here. I've added the spinach. I'm gonna give it a stir, and like literally right after, I'm just gonna turn off the heat like 2 minutes later, because the spinach doesn't take that much time to cook, and this is a cook ahead meal. I'm not even eating any of this today. So every time we bring it out to eat, we are going to be warming it. So you don't want to overcook your ingredients. I've added my cooked down tomatoes in here, and as you can see right away, our stew is about being made. And look at this okra stew. Look at this okra stew. Just perfect, perfect. So like I said, 2 minutes later, it's perfect. The spinach is softened up a little bit now. The draw is there. Look at how slimy. Look at that draw. And that is it. I'm just going to turn this off because you want it to stay fresh. You want it to have texture. You don't want it to be mushy when you bring it out of the fridge and warm it. So this is done, and now we can move on to other things. So the next on our list is going to be our fish, and that I'm going to be doing in my oven. I'll be broiling it. So I line my baking tray with aluminum foil and then I quickly moved to my stew. I added some fresh bay leaves that have stayed in my fridge forever, so they look like they are dry, but they were supposed to be fresh ones. And now I am going to go ahead and get my vegetables ready. I'm just washing all the vegetables, and then I'll start off by cutting the ones that I'll need for my fish. And as always, if you can, so far as you can, try to get organic. Sometimes these organic ingredients, if you really pay attention, they are sometimes even cheaper than the regular ones. You know, it depends if it's on sale. So I always try to look for my organic ingredients when they are on sale, or if the difference is not, the margin is not too much, just go ahead and get it organic, because our health is just as important. You know, I would rather spend more of my money on wholesome foods than any other thing, you know. And if I can, like I said, if it makes sense, especially my vegetables, I try to get organic as much as I can. So I'm going to use a half of all these peppers, like to do the fish. And so that is what I'm starting. First, I'm cleaning, getting them ready, and then later on I'll cut up the rest for the fish too. So right now I'm all done slicing up my vegetables for the fish, and so I'm transferring them onto my tray that I've lined with aluminum foil, and I'm going to season these veggies with some salt and pepper. So that is black peppercorns. I'm crushing freshly crushed ones on there now, and then I'll add some salt, just a little bit of salt, and I'll just mix this all up. And this is going to be the bed that my beautiful red snapper is going to sit on to cook. And so it is going to give us some juices to the fish. And then the fish is also going to flavor these veggies, because you're going to serve the fish with the veggies. So anyway, I have my fish here. And initially when I cleaned it up, I seasoned it with some salt. And then I put it in the fridge because I was busy doing other things. But I just added a little bit of salt. And right now I'm applying some onion powder on it. And then I'll go ahead and add other ingredients, which I'll be showing you. And this, I'm taking you through the recipe because I haven't cooked this separately before. And this you can also find on Anabe's channel. So this is some garlic powder over here, and I am applying some garlic powder. And this is one of my favorite seasonings. It's Stone 6 Pepper seasonings. So delicious, works so perfect on all your meats and your seafood. And here is another one of my favorites, cilantro lime. It's so good, so delicious on seafood. And you're free to go ahead and use any seasoning that you prefer. and it's just going to be just as good. So I've applied onto one side of my fish, and so I flip them over now, and I'm going to repeat the same process minus the salt because I told you it's already salted on the other sides. And now I'm just going to go ahead and drizzle a little bit of olive oil on my fish just to make it have that beautiful glossy look that is like a cross between fried and baked or grilled. And this, I know it's going to be delicious because I just made it the week before. It was so good. That's why we are remaking it this time around. Delicious. So all these beautiful slits that I made on my fish, of course, you want to apply some of that good marinade in there to bring some more flavor to your fish and also help to make it look beautiful, beautiful. Always presentation is key because like I always say, we first eat with our eyes. So our fish is all done now, and I'm just transferring these beauties onto this gorgeous, gorgeous bed. It's like beauty, needs beauty, beautiful fish, beautiful vegetables. They just have to, complement each other that way. And now I'm just going to go ahead and bake this more like I'm broiling it. So I have my broiler on, and that is at 500 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'm going to be baking this on either side for about 7 minutes on each side. So in goes my fish now straight in the broiler. So the heat is touching it directly from above, and that makes it cook more like grilling. So you want to be mindful of it and take good care of it. Yeah, I like to eat the ends of my carrots when I cut it. I don't know. Yes, I do. I love it. Anyways, I'm chopping these vegetables to go into my fish tomato stew. And it has been about 7 minutes. I actually set my timer on so I don't, forget and burn my fish because I've done that a lot of the time when I'm using the broiler. And I just flip them over, and now they are good to go back for another 7 minutes for that side to cook as well. And these are celery. I love celery in my vegetable stew. So in they go, just delicious. My kids are going to be fuzzy about this, but hopefully they'll eat some. And that is why I scooped some on the side in case they don't want to eat it. I can just make their own, cook their rice and give them the plain stew. And we'll have our vegetable stew, which hopefully we'll have with some yams. So I've added in here some powdered shrimp. That is like smoked shrimp that I ground myself at home. And that is going to bring flavor. So instead of using any artificial seasoning, that is what I'm using to season my stew. And I added just a little bit of salt to taste. And now I'm going to go ahead and start making my saute veggies. So I put some olive oil in my pan, added some garlic. We like chunks of garlic. So I have big chunks in there, and you're free to just chop yours or mince it to be very fine, however way you like it. And like you saw, I scooped up some stew on the side because in case these kids don't want to eat these vegetables, this vegetable stew, they can have that. Or if I run out of jollof, because I made some jollof yesterday already, I can always make a little bit of jollof for them with that extra stew. And so now I'm adding in my onions now, and I'll add some of the onions also to my vegetables too. Always in making saute vegetables, you want to put the hard ingredients in first. So that is what I'm doing, except for your garlic, which you want to flavor your oil and everything else with. You want to do everything. The harder ones go in first and the soft ones go in last. So I have some onions, garlic, which went in first, some carrots and my peppers in my pan now, and I just seasoned with some salt and crushed some peppers onto it. Yeah, freshly ground pepper, just always amazing. And now I'm just going to let it cook, and it's a saute. So of course a stir fry, you're cooking it on high heat. And whilst I was doing that, I was yet to cut my cabbage, so I quickly cut up half of it, and then in here I'll be coming soon with the other half. There we go, and that is it. So our stir fry is on its way, and our fish has cooked for a total of 40 minutes, 7 on each side, and it's going to be perfect. But I flip it for it to broil an extra 2 minutes, and after that the fish is done. So here we are with our stir fry. I also added the leftover of my spinach and then some cilantro that I chopped up in here as well. Added some red onions. You always want to add your red. I always add my red onions last because I want them to retain their beautiful, gorgeous color. And I'm just adding a little bit of crushed red peppers in here just to bring a little heat. So, you know, sometimes you just feel like you need a little spice in those veggies. And that is exactly what I did. And so here I have my fried fish. This is fried whiting that I made the day before. We had some jollof with it. And I made a big batch because I knew I was going to be meal prepping and I was going to save some to make this stew. So in goes my fried fish. My vegetables are all in here now, and then at this point our stew is done. I'm just going to cover this and let it cook very low heat, on very low heat, for about 3 minutes, just so the fish can absorb some of the flavors and give of its own flavors to the stew. And remember, this is being cooked ahead, so every time you warm it, you'll be cooking it, so you don't want to overcook your vegetables. And now everything is all cooked, and I'm just going to go ahead and quickly do the dishes, load the dishwasher, and everything that I will need to dish out some food that is already in the sink. I'm just trying to wash it so I can use it for that purpose. It's been a long day. Like from when I woke up to now, it's already in the wee hours of the morning, and I am super tired. But I'm happy that I was able to do all this because I still have one more day off. That is the next day, and I'm going to hope. So we're all cleaned up, and now I can go ahead and just dish everything out, starting with this fish stew. Just look at that. It smells so good. It tastes amazing. I just can't wait. Like, I think probably tomorrow, I'm just going to go ahead and boil some of my yams. I got 3 tubers of yam in the African market when I went to town today. And I can't wait to have some apesi with this. Who's next in line? It's me, okra stew. It's me, okra stew. Yes, this is our okra stew. And I'm just going to be splitting it into 2. I didn't make that much. Like I said, I intended to make this for the kids, but this was so good, so good. Like, we ended up finishing it with them. Just look at that. Very simple. For once, my okra stew is not like loaded and crowded with all kinds of things like surf and turf. This is just very simple, and but the taste was just amazing. And now it's the turn of rare soup, and the soup was so good, so good. Like, seriously, my husband actually sent me a text at work telling me how much my kids are just devouring the soup. He was like, this is your batch of food, everything is so perfect, the kids are just enjoying the soup. And that, you know, as a mom, is all you need to make it all feel worth it. Like, my burning feet and everything else, forget it. I'm just so happy, so happy these kids are enjoying the food, because Ivana, especially my daughter, she's so picky. It's so hard to get her to enjoy or eat anything. Anyway, the jerk chicken, which was first, is now the very last, and I am just cutting through them just to make it manageable, because we'll be taking them to work, and you don't want to be dealing with such huge pieces of meat at work. So I'm just cutting it to make it easy. And now I have some rice and veggies, and I'm just going to put my chicken on it now, and there we go. Perfect. And remember, I already said we have some jollof that I cooked the day before, which I made with the fried fish, so we have that as well, with some veggies in the fridge. And so together with the rice and peas and chicken, we are covered for the days that we work. More like I am the one going to be working the next few days, but I always want to have a little extra for my husband when he starts, because when I'm working, he's home. When he's home, I'm working. And when he starts his work week, I have just come off my 4 straight or 3 straight 12-hour shift, and I'm super tired and don't feel like cooking. So there's always going to be a little for him to start his work week with, and then I'll go ahead at my free time when I'm a little rested to cook. So look at this fish, just beautiful. It cooked so beautifully. When you set it on the veggies, it just doesn't prevent, it does not just add flavor to it, but it also prevents your fish from falling apart. You know, that bed, it sits on it so it doesn't get stuck on anything. This is beautiful, and it's delicious. I hope you try this. You will love it. I know you will. So good. So onyawa, or recipe way dear, thank you. And look at that. I just take my aluminum foil off, and my pan is clean. I don't have to do anything to it, and it's just perfect. And look at this fish. I have to show you. I really want you to see how good it turned out. Just look. I know you can see how beautifully cooked it is, how juicy it is. You can see the taste. I know you can see the taste, but I'm leaving that to your imagination. This is good. And now look, everything is all done, ready to be covered and put in the fridge. I am super, super tired, but happy. Yes, I am so happy I got this out of the way because I just want to be able to rest a little bit when I come home and not have my sleep interrupted, having to wake up to make lunch or dinner. It gets so hard because it's so hard for me to fall asleep in the daytime anyway. And this helps me to be able to get as little sleep, as much sleep as I can. Yes, and I hope this is working out for you and your family as well. A lot of you have gotten back to me with great, messages about how this has been so helpful. And if this doesn't work for your family, whatever works for your family, just go ahead and do it. These are still recipes you can still come to if you choose to be cooking more regularly on a daily basis. It's what works for you and your family that you do, and nothing else, okay? So I hope you've enjoyed coming here with me. I have enjoyed having you on board. I'm super tired. I can't just wait to go get a soak in the tub, get some Epsom salt to help my aching feet. But it has been a joy having you here, and I hope to do this again with you very shortly. Thank you so much for your love and your support for the channel. Kindly continue to share the videos and tell your friends and family about the channel. And until I come your way next time with something delicious, be loving, be kind, be happy.